Welcome to the Banana Republic of America. Only in third world countries does voter fraud and voter problems and big conflicts over voting happen, right? So I guess that makes us a third world country. So welcome to another CIRF week. Now, if you're complaining like the rest of us about the confusion and the problems in the voting, the whole voting system, and maybe the corruption in the political system, well, you're not alone. And we did accurately predict that, or shall I say, the triangulation process of last week. For those of you who are new, what we do is we triangulate for the energy, and we look for the median from all these different sources of influence. So last week, the influence was a crescendo of confusion, chaos. And that's what we have, chaos in the political system, chaos in who is the president. What does that say about the massive turn in the House of Representatives? Is all that illegitimate too? Who knows? All right, so a lot of question marks in the political system, but that's not the point of what the CIRF report is. The CIRF report is here to tell you what the energies are and going to be in the following week. And then we're going to do this same process of triangulation. And I've been looking at the wrong cameras. Okay. We do the same triangulation process for the solution, and that'll be towards the second half of the video. The first half, we're going to talk about astrology. Dreambot is the collective unconscious, and we're going to do the I-Ching reading. We triangulate all of those, and by the way, I included that extra circle. This extra circle's been here for a while, and it's called the U.S. presidential election. Because, I mean, you've been seeing Nigerians chanting for Trump. We've been seeing Israelis chanting for Trump. All these different nations. It's pretty eye-watering, pretty incredible how this is a world phenomenon, not just the U.S. So if any of you viewers are from outside the U.S., consider this still important for you, this influence, because the U.S. presidential election is a big influence for the world, especially considering all of the peace that has been breaking out around the world, except for the United States, but we sort of know where that's coming from. All right, so influence. We have the U.S. presidential election is pretty much coincident with the I-Ching. It's like, you know, determination. Both parties, both sides, corruption, et cetera, are all determined to win or determined to push their agenda out. Okay, so that's it's an exact match of the U.S. presidential election. And all of that is a perfect match for the astrology. And in astrology, we have Mercury going direct. So our thoughts are going to be a lot clearer. Unfortunately, there's some squares still with Mercury, at least initially. We have a grand water trine, the lunar aspects. By the way, we have eclipse season coming up, not this week, but towards the end of November. All right, and into December. So that should be very interesting astrologically. We have a Mercury T-square. We have Venus opposed Mars. We got a lot of stuff happening in the astrology, but we'll see it's a lot calmer, a lot more tame than we have seen in the months previous. We also, lastly, have the Dreambot here, and it's forward-looking as well. So it really does match this determination thing from the I-Ching, but it's a lot more fun oriented. Okay, so we're moving faster and it's fun. So that's that circle goes in sideways 90 degrees out, but the forward and fast, that's a direct overlap. So anyway, we're going to talk about all these, and then most importantly, towards the end, we're going to talk about what does it all mean and how are you supposed to behave to maximize your energies. Hang on, we're going to get started now. All right. We have the Dreambot here, collective unconscious. Is arguably Carl Jung's collective unconscious because it pulls in everybody's dreams. We all know that the dreams are largely part of the subconscious mind. It's there to show you what you're obsessed about, show you what things you've been exposed to, what you're trying to get rid of mentally, etc. So dreams are very important. And at a collective level, that shows you what the health of the collective mind is. So it's brilliant. And I'm going to zoom in, and I have one meme. Now, that one meme is just forward, singing, biking, subway, stepping, singing as in you're pushing something forth, which is the vocal cords. But the word children in here, high, the word high, riding, faster, etc. It's all forward, but it's fun. High and children and big. And so it's a full experience. Biking normally is a fun thing. So it's fun and fast. And we're also curious. It almost sounds like a Leo sort of thing. We'll get to that later in the astrology. And then sometimes I have these linguistic sets. And I want to show you linguistic set number 1. Sometimes these linguistics we proved that in Project August, where these linguistic sets can accurately predict future. I'm not saying this is predicting the future, but it's interesting to note. Linguistics number 1, Lake Keys smell military. Now, when I was thinking of that, I'm thinking of Lake Michigan and the Keys, Florida Keys. So I'm thinking coastline or water, big water areas, or as a place of focus, and maybe even you start seeing a large presence of military there. I don't know. It sounds kind of awkward. Why would the military be associated with like the coastlines and borders? Is there an attack planned, or who knows? I'm not saying there is. It's just interesting to note in the collective. Then 2, look at this one: red, high, riding, faster, getting. Very interesting, isn't it? You've seen the red wave, I'm sure. Red, high, riding, faster, getting. And so it looks like a standstill, especially from no matter which side you're looking at in terms of the election. But red is riding and moving forward, and getting what? That's what I'd like to know. But anyway, that's it for the collective unconscious. Take it for what it is, just the people's collective dreams. So it could all be just hogwash, but it's important because we need to know what we're creating collectively. Now, time for the astrology. And what I was trying to do before was to get my highlighter out. So I'll do that now. And you see how there's a lot of clean space here. That's not quite indicative, as you're going to see as we go day to day in the astrology, because we don't locate moon aspects. It would just be crazy messy if we included all the lunar aspects. So basically what I'm saying is that the craziness that you are going to see in the day-to-day astrology is mostly coming from the moon and its alignments. Otherwise, you have some inconjuncts. Those are adjustments. You have some oppositions. Those are kind of feeling out of balance, which you're going to feel like. And then you have some trines. So it's not too bad energetically from the non-lunar planets. Then you have Mercury going direct. It's already direct as of last week. And Mercury is going to be going into Scorpio. So thoughts are going to get a little bit deeper, or maybe a lot deeper. Thoughts and communication around deeper issues. Maybe not philosophical. That's a little bit more Sagittarius, but depth and dark is where Scorpio is. Inner power, you might be able to tap into that in your rational mind. That would be cool, because rational mind implies conscious mind, a mindful awareness. And a lot of what Scorpio offers is that deep inner subconscious mind. And so if you include the two, maybe it's a time to rationally and consciously see those deeper seated issues. All right. That's just overall. And that's not happening until the last day of our CIRF week. So be patient. All right. Now check this out. This is on Thursday the 5th. We start off with a bang. And you can see this green grand water trine. That's because of the moon. And, two of those legs are coming from the moon. So this grand water trine won't be around all that long, but the moon is at home during this grand water trine, is home to Cancer. But here's the other thing. Moon also makes a T-square, and a very tight T-square. It's 10 and Venus in 10. This is midday on November 5th. So anyway, you have a choice. If you're going to feel dominated by the emotional trap, the T-square, or you're going to see that emotional ease of the grand water trine. Incidentally, water in and of itself in astrology is very emotional. It's our prescription to seeing and experiencing the otherly world, the transpersonal world, psychic realm. And, the sun doesn't particularly like all that, fits more well with the fire signs, but nonetheless, you've got two of the big dominant water planets, Moon and Neptune, in this grand water trine. So it's very deeply emotional, but it's easy. It's ease of emotions. And in that, as long as you're behaving appropriately, which is probably not trying to get too much done in that case, because, imagine trying to run in water. It's very hard. It's to run in water. It's a lot of resistance. So it's not a lot of doing, but also the emotions are going to determine whether or not you end up in this nice, easy grand water trine or the tight, trapped T-square. And the T-square is with this opposition, Venus opposed Mars. So forcing you to balance that yin and yang, the male and female. We talked about that last time, and this is getting stronger. So the emotions really determine that. And some therapists think that you can control your emotions, and you should control your emotions. And other therapists think that, you should allow those emotions to be there because they're going to be coming in no matter what anyway. Try to control them, and it's like a bucking bronco. So two lines of thought. And so I'm a proponent of both, actually. I do think that emotions can be controlled, but more in the long run. I think if you see emotions more as a habit, then over time you can create more neurotransmitters of the emotions that you like, and thereby controlling them. But day-to-day and acute emotions, I don't think those are controllable, and I think it'd be better off to allow those to be there. Why am I saying that? I think if you try to control your emotions, i.e. that's representative of the moon, then you're probably going to end up in the trap. You're going to end up in them. If you allow them to be there and just kind of float in them, blow up your raft, if you can imagine just being on top of the water and just letting the water drift, let you drift down the water. I think that's a better place to be on November 5th, on Thursday, is this grand water trine. And then Mercury is direct, remember, so mentally a lot more clear. Mercury in Libra is nice. Libra is an air sign that, an air mental, good mental acuity. Unfortunately, Mercury square, off to our positive transformation of the way things have always been. And that's all I have to say about that. And let's move on to Friday. Now we have a different T-square. This one's with Mercury. And of course, it's because of the sun. And so the trap here is, unfortunately, your mind. Your mind is just cleared up. Mercury direct just a few days later. And now I'm in a T-square if I rely too much on my thoughts. So there you go. Now, here's the other thing about Friday the 6th. As you see all these purple oppositions, it's opposition day. What this means is lots of different things out of balance. We already talked about Venus and Mars. We have Saturn and the moon. Well, I guess the rest of them are the moon. So emotions are out of balance while you're dealing with the yin and the yang and the male-female dichotomy. All right. And then your mind feels trapped. So Friday is kind of like a restricted day, but also a mentally restricted day, but also very much sort of emotionally out of balance. And I think I'm a big proponent of just stop fighting the emotions. I think this is just surrender to the emotions. Just let them ride out, ride the waves. Okay, fine. And then in comes the emotion, and then out comes the emotion. So that's the sensations there. And then the hidden energy is the sun is trine to Neptune. So ego is easily dreaming, especially as mind drifts, or mind is conflicted and pressured and trapped. The ego can feel just easily fantasize about something a lot more pleasant, and maybe it's an escape. Neptune incidentally is escape. So ego can easily escape on Friday, especially given all the emotional imbalance and the mental conflict. All right. Saturday, we have the Venus opposed Mars is the big one. And you can start seeing the moon doesn't really have a whole lot here other than Uranus, but it's temporary and it's change oriented. So the sky is cleaning up. We still have the ego that can still feel like he's escaping. Sunday, now we have Venus square Jupiter. Now, if both of these are oriented towards finance, that's not a good sign. So at least we have, Jupiter with optimism squared. So it's hard to have energy between harmony, relationship, finance, with the deeper wisdom and positivity and optimism. That's not happening. And so these are not a very good sign. And pretty soon here, as of tomorrow or the next day, that would be November 9th, which is a Monday, I'm wondering, because Venus is now making multiple squares, what if this is really bad for the markets? Think about it. If Venus and Jupiter are both, and Libra even, associated with the finances and money, coinage, that's all squared off. Pluto is the inner power, but also the transformation. That's all squared off. So monetarily, you're going to be feeling and disharmoniously feeling separated from this positive transformation. So there's multiple things here. I'm wondering, and maybe they're related to each other. I'm wondering if it's really hard to see the beauty in this positive transformation, or maybe things really turn south. It looks like disaster's looming, and so the markets tank because of it. I don't know. I'm not saying that. I don't like making world predictions based on these energy reports, but that could very well happen. Okay. All right. Tuesday, we have a couple more inconjuncts. What we were talking about was Venus, and now Venus picks up an inconjunct with where you've been escaping to in your ego. And so now relationships and harmony and finance are adjusting. All right. And then why did I have opportunities with the sun? Yeah. The ego now is losing its waning its nice easy trine to Neptune, so it's not so easy to dream anymore. But there's opportunities now with ego for optimism. That's Jupiter, and these are sextiles, by the way. Sun sextile the moon, so there's an opportunity with honoring your emotions. That's on the 10th, and Tuesday the 10th, and we still have that nasty Venus squared off to Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. Wednesday, the 11th, our last day in this CIRF report, Mercury goes into Scorpio. And this is where the depth of these emotions are. And that hits an opposition to Uranus, Mercury is just starting. So as we go deeper into Scorpio, you're going to feel more and more change. And Mercury, and think of running in water doesn't work too well, but mind is not all that great. In water signs, mental aptitude is lower because it's more emotional in that case. But so mental acuity is slower and more emotional, and you're have to adapting to more change, or it feels like it. You're having to perceive a lot of change. All right, time for the I-Ching reading. As we said before, hexagram 43 is called determination. Some resolution is pointing to a breakthrough. What I didn't mention before in that summary slide, maybe I should go back to it here real quick, is that I didn't give you the triangulation. It's the pressure building for a breakthrough. So we had determination, and we had the U.S. presidential election as exactly the same thing. So there's determination for an outcome, and but we had the Dreambot going fast and fun and high and having a blast doing it. So the forward thing is the same, but if you can imagine, nobody is moving forward. I mean, at least in terms of who won the election. Well, nobody knows. There's this pressure building. So yeah, we want to be moving forward. That's what all of these sciences say, but we're not moving forward. So there's a pressure building. All right. So that's the overall influence. And I'm sorry I didn't bring that up earlier. So let's go back to the I-Ching. And it says some resolution is pointing to a breakthrough. And that's why the pressure is building, because everyone wants to be moving forward. Decisive action will be necessary. If you diligently hold your ground, warding off negative tendencies or bad influences, goodness will indeed prevail. Garden variety lies and deceit are more common and persistent in this time period, but should also be rooted out diligently. Be resolute against forces of negativity, whether in your social or professional life or in your own soul. Be certain, but certain rules must be followed for your efforts to succeed. First rule, do not compromise with corruption. This is amazing. Isn't this amazing? I mean, it's telling us to hold resolute against the other corruption, and breakthroughs about ready to happen. All right, but you got to follow these rules. Do not compromise with corruption. Now, this is not about pointing the finger. Yeah, other people are corrupted. All right, that's a given. But focus on yourself this week. Make sure you don't fall into that corruption, but you also don't compromise with it. That's where the others come in. Misdeeds and shameful action must be identified for what they are and quickly discredited. You can also stop spreading lies by spreading more of them. In other words, don't be creating more problems by doing what they're doing. All right. Holding the line. All right, line 3. This line points to someone caught in an ambiguous situation. Yeah, we're all in that situation. Line 4, a restless person with an obstinate attitude meets with misfortune. So, obstinance in this case is going to meet a lot of resistance. So we have to do more jujitsu, and that is use the enemies or use the opposition's momentum for your advantage. All right. And I think that's what's really happening too in the collective sense, is that there's an advantage right now of being in an ambiguous situation. We have an opportunity to really expose the corruption. All right. So if there is a bright side to all this, it's going to be a lot of exposure. All right. Here is the solution. Before we get to that, let's have a word from our sponsor. All right. If you're having, and wrong camera again, if you're having, and the reason why I'm so red is because I am honoring the sun, getting sunshine, because it's a nice weather out today and this whole week. But it's really hard to judge how much sun you're getting because The sun is lower on the horizon. It's not as hot. And so anyway, that's my excuse. But get your vitamin D. It's healthy, and if there is a coronavirus, it does a nice job killing it. The studies are showing that. All right, just get into the solution. Line 60 or hexagram 60, water over lake. Isn't that interesting? We saw lake in the Dreambot and pretty high up in the Dreambot. So there's lake in astrology as water, and water is very emotional in that transpersonal world. So that's interesting. Water on water. This means limits and connections. Things are slower in the water. Remember? Limits are necessary to channel energy, guide purpose, and lend direction to life. Constantly swimming in a sea of boundless opportunity leads to exhaustion. So in this week, the solution-wise, according to the I-Ching, do not sign up for everything. Yeah, there's going to be some opportunities there, but you can't say yes to everything. This brings in human design as an option to see what your inner authority says. Human design says that if you don't follow your inner authority, you will enter into a state of not self, which will invoke a certain feeling depending on what your design is. So if you want more of that, go to innerzension.com, sign up for a human design reading. Not that I have a lot of spaces available. I'm looking at about 2 weeks out now for appointments, but still making appointments, and we'd be happy to do that for you. A key to a successful life is to select your limits consciously and carefully, to be discriminating in the setting of personal boundaries, but also knowing when to fly in formation. So this is a delicate dance in your behaviors this week. It's a when to be free spirit, and when to be disciplined, and when to put your limits on things. On the other hand, do not go overboard on discipline to avoid choking off vital sources of enthusiasm and spontaneity. So we want all of that. We want plenty of spontaneity and moving forward, just as the Dreambot said and is already feeling, but watch out for not being disciplined enough, not saying no enough, right? So we want to balance with all of that. All right, now we go into the calculator. So what I call the calculator, and we have a little Innerzension logo here. I thought that's pretty cool. But what we do is we take our highest influence astrologically, which is going to be the Jupiter and Pluto squared over to Venus. And because that's that pressure. There's a pressure of breakthrough, and that's the breakthrough is Pluto. Pluto is the breakthrough, but it feels like you're dying first. Then, oh yeah, this is my new life. So that's the square. That's the square represents pressure, and that's what the main influence was, according to our triangulation. So you put that in, and you draw that out to the Rave Mandala. That's 54. And then you draw that out to the sidereal chart, which is Sagittarius. And I'll show you a second how we use all that. First, we're going to read from the Rave Mandala, hexagram 54, the gate of ambition. Isn't that interesting, the gate of ambition? So, yeah, there's that pressure to go through. We had the I-Ching that said determination as the influence, and now we have the gate of ambition. Embodies the idea of rising up, moving up the ladder. This is the gate of drive. So energetically and solution-wise and behaviorally, you get to have moving up the ladder. It's putting work out. It's not putting it on a shelf, not waiting for the world to get in alignment with good spirit and good energy for you to do stuff. It's time for you to go now. This week, this gate 54 fuels the drive to transform. All right. So there's going to be some transformation at a collective level, but you can invoke some transformation in your own level. All right, here we go. What you've all been waiting for. Anytime that you don't have time to watch the whole CIRF report, I encourage you to at least slide to this towards the end and get your solution, get the influence and the solution for the next week. All right, so this week, The pressure is building for a breakthrough, as we mentioned earlier. Then we saw from the I-Ching, limits and connections, prioritizing opportunities, consciously accepting your limitations, but not being too disciplined and letting the free spirit come out and jiving with the energies afforded you at that time. All right, the Ray Mandala said gate of ambition. So here's your fuel, not to just go out and do stuff, but it's to transform. What are you going to transform? How are you going to rise up? How are you going to evolve as a human? How are you going to help the collective move forward? The collective unconscious is already ready. So this is a perfect solution, the part of the solution, this Rave Mandala, to exactly what the collective unconscious is showing you anyway. Then we have Sidereal Sagittarius. This is perfect, guys. Expansive, free, wise, wide-ranging, optimistic philosophy, spirituality. This is Sagittarius, and this is our solution zodiacal sign. And so using these attributes, we also need to avoid impatience. Oh, who's not impatient right now, right? So avoid impatience, avoid confrontation with too much. It doesn't mean you can't call out corruption, right? And then not being superficial. All right, so when we get to the triangle in the inner overlaps, here's what we have. Determination is the common attribute this week of the influence and the solution. We talked about how both of those are true. We talked about the I-Ching influence, and we talked about the Rave Mandala. Therefore, the right kind of determination is required. Don't jump on every opportunity. Prioritize your energy. Honor any limitations. And these sorts of limitations aren't like mental, like, ugh, I can't do it, or I'll never succeed. That's not the limitations we're thinking of. These types of limitations are showing up on the fly. When you push out on something, the law of karma is going to give you an equal and opposite return. Also Einstein's equations, equal and opposite reaction and all that. But some of these things that you get to go doing, you're not going to have a lot of resistance for. So that makes it a good thing, a good indicator that you're on the right track in your behaviors. Your limitations in this case are going to show up as you're doing the activity. All right. So that's how you know to start backing down. And it doesn't mean you can't do anything that's hard. It means let's just use a little bit of discretion. And if you think this thing's going to be easy, but it turns into be unusual amounts of limitations, well, forget it. Go do something else. All right. That's this week. Don't beat against the brick wall multiple times. Sometimes, and so for some people, that's our task, is to break through the wall. But I'm just saying in general, this week, this is a good indicator that you're not on the right topic. If you're impatient and you're feeling helpless, or you're just like you're never going to do it. And this is more than maybe you have these mental limitations all the time. Well, that's you, not the world right now. If you don't normally have that problem, but you're seeing it this week, like, oh man, I don't know how much I can do here. Well, that's a sign that you're signing up for too much. All right, the gate of ambition gives you fuel to proceed big. Use optimism and expansiveness of Sagittarius. Go for the goal if it matches with your inner authority. That's human design. By the way, if you don't have time or interest to getting a reading from me for your human design, you can get it online for free. There's plenty of places. Just look up human design chart. And then it's just a matter of learning more about it. There's lots of books available, Amazon, bookstore, etc. And a lot of videos on YouTube. All right. Your number 2, if it matches with your inner authorities, number 1. 2, your highest values, what's important to you. Number 3, your current energy levels. And 4, the seamlessness afforded to you, the lack of hurdles. So use your discretion on that. Limitations may be very short and temporary or long and permanent. Stay aware of your energy. All right. Well, let's see, 35 minutes, not too bad. If you have questions, and by the way, I really appreciate everybody's comments. If you haven't commented below, consider giving me a little bit of a note down below and indicate that you're getting some good things out of this, or having questions, or even some feedback and comments about these CIRF reports. I really do appreciate you being here. I appreciate your likes and shares. I appreciate just hearing back from you in all these CIRF reports. All right, let's put some positive energy towards this world of ours, and let's rat out the corrupt. How about that? Let's do that. It's a great week for it. All right, see you, everybody.